out with the dub against the Titans. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't even call I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I wouldn't even call myself like a Lamar stan, if you will.
That's
I like Lamar Jackson fine. I just think the narrative that surrounds him is stupid. Like he's 23 years old and people are acting like he's
fair.
totally choked in life. And it's crazy to me like that he won like what 6 big games in a row to get them into the playoffs and nobody was giving him credit because they said he's got to do it in the playoffs. And now he does great in the playoffs, and I still feel like people are waiting on him. Well, he's got to do it against the Chiefs. I thought he was
Mhm.
phenomenal against the Tennessee Titans. Like I thought that was he
No,
literally
that
carried
was
their
awesome.
offense. Their offense, like everybody wants to bring up the pass game, 165 yards, blah blah blah. They don't have a good pass game scheme, and they don't have good wide receivers. They just don't. Like those receivers can't win on the outside. So I just think that it's unfair to evaluate him that way. His running is special. His running is the reason they won that game. He's
Yeah.
so explosive. He's so fast. And I think we're going to get into it with them against Buffalo, but I think they actually match up really well with Buffalo. It's a favorable matchup to me for them, and I think he's going to have another great game.
Yeah. So on that game, yeah, the touchdown run was actually just one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a playoff game. He was in the pocket. Their offense was pretty anemic to that point. Like they weren't really getting much, and he just took off, right? And their pass rush is we've talked about it before. They don't have a good pass rush at all. They have Jeffrey Simmons on their D line. Harold Landry's all right, but besides
Yeah,
that,
right. Tennessee
it's a
doesn't
bunch
have.
of like people that will probably not be there next year, or not starters at least. And they were, pretty containing him pretty well. In that one little play, someone over pursued over the left tackle. I think it was Landry. I'm not sure, but he just took off. Right, he saw a lane, got past a couple guys, and the dude's fast. Right,
Mm-hmm.
so that was awesome. And then I think we saw in the second half, his passing really picked it up. They that first interception he had, like that was a pretty bad pass. No need to really say much more on that. But yeah, his passing in the second half was good enough. And then once they started feeding Dobbins and their O line was getting a push on the line, they started playing really, really well.
Yeah, I mean that pretty much covers it. Like he basically carries their offense with his run. And I love that you brought up the touchdown run because he was shot from a cannon. I
Yeah.
think the big thing with the Titans defense is like I don't really want to say anything critical because I'm like an closeted Tennessee guy where I like Ryan Tannehill, I like Corey Davis, I like AJ Brown, I like Derrick Henry, I like Vrabel. So I don't like saying anything bad about them, but they're not fast on defense to go with the fact that they can't rush the passer. So Lamar was way too dynamic. I think last year two things helped them. One, they jumped out in front like this year, and two,
Mhm.
I think the loss of Dean Pease hurt them. Dean Pease was super creative on third downs, and he did a lot of things that would cover up the fact that they didn't have top notch personnel. They had pretty good personnel, and they lack speed on their defense. Their linebackers, Jen
Mhm.
Brown, Rashawn Evans, those guys aren't too fast. Long isn't too fast. Their defensive line isn't particularly fast. Their safeties, corners. I mean, besides Adoree Jackson, there's not a lot of speed out there. They're kind of slow as a defense. And I think Dean Pease was super creative in how they played zone coverage and stuff and was able
Mhm.
to do those things. But Lamar is just different this year. And their defense, the Ravens defense also played phenomenal. But
Yeah.
I think this game was all about Lamar, and people need to stop disrespecting Lamar Jackson because he's going to win a lot more playoff games in his career. This was a first playoff game of many, and I don't want to hear anything about the choking. Like that choking bothers me more because he's like 23, 2 years older than me. Like imagine if one of us was 2 years into our profession. We've barely done anything in our profession. We've had some success, and people are saying that we're chokers, like, or we
Yeah.
can't execute when it counts. Like that narrative was mind blowing to me from day one, and I'm glad that Lamar can finally put a playoff win on his resume. Where there's also something where you can tell people who have that bogus mindset that it's a waste of time and it's wrong.
Yeah. And it's not that the fact that like we say big game, right? And then he starts, he won a do or die game his rookie year. This year,
Sure.
yeah, this year that Browns game was spectacular. Me and you really didn't think they'd make it because they would have pretty much had to do what they did and win out, and they
Mm,
did win out. each of those games was do or die. Like if they lose those games, right, they're one of those. I don't know. They maybe could have lost one due to the other loss, but yeah, like he played out of his mind. My other thing too is what was I going to say? Yeah, I think it's mainly due to just young quarterbacks being more successful now. You see the Herberts, the Burrows, the Mahomes, and they all win stuff when they're really young, and then they say, Lamar, why can't you do that? It's like it's a completely different situation. We've talked about their pass offense and how they really don't have any like viable number one options. Like Mark Andrews is probably their best weapon, and he's a really good tight end, but that's not the guy you want to focus your pass offense around. So
Right.
I'm happy it's over. I was so happy when they won. I'm not even a Ravens fan, but I just hate the narrative.
Me too, me too. And I think ultimately the point you made was right on about the young quarterbacks. I think people see the success Mahomes has had.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's been expected on Watson as much, but for some reason Lamar Jackson has taken the brunt of it. But Mahomes also has played in the best possible situation. He is the best of the quarterbacks. That's one thing. And number two, he's played in the best situation of the quarterbacks. Football's a team game. Last year against Tennessee, Lamar Jackson, yeah, he had a couple turnovers, but the Ravens as a team played poorly. How can he take blame for that? So I think it's too much when they win give credit to the quarterback. When they lose, blame the quarterback. Lamar Jackson, I can't wait. I hope they make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Cool. Right. And it's not even because I like Baltimore or I'm a big Baltimore fan. I just want to see this narrative gone.
Yeah. And I think it's mainly due to expectation. Like they went 14-2. He won the MVP. Like you're expected to perform well, and not rightfully so. I think he threw 50 or 60 passes last year against Tennessee, and I mean that's just not a winning formula for a quarterback with Marquise Brown as the number one receiver. Like no disrespect to him, but he's not the best number one receiver, right? So yeah, I think it was expectation, and it's kind of with Giannis too, like winning an MVP, like you're expected to perform well in the playoffs, and if you even slip up like the tiniest margin, people are just gonna
give you no context or